Think back to the year 2004 for a moment. It was a world that felt very different from the one we inhabit today. Most of us were still carrying flip phones in our pockets. We checked our emails on bulky computers using slow dial-up connections. If you wanted to see the latest sports news or catch a glimpse of an Olympic champion, you had to wait for the evening broadcast on television. You were at the mercy of a few journalists and editors who decided which stories were important enough to be told. If they did not point the camera at an athlete, that athlete essentially did not exist to the public. Today, we live in an age of instant magic. We have the entire world in our hands. We can see a goal scored in a stadium thousands of miles away just seconds after it happens. We assume that because we have all this access, the world is now a fair and open place. We think that if someone is talented and hardworking, they will naturally be seen by everyone. But beneath this high-tech surface, there is a quiet and invisible wall that is still keeping some of the greatest stories in the world hidden from us. This is not just a problem of technology. It is a problem of how we choose to see value in the people around us. When we look at the current state of digital media, we see a surface concept called discoverability. This is the idea that we stumble upon things while we are scrolling through our feeds. We think we are exploring the world freely, but in reality, we are being guided by invisible hands. We click on one video, and then the algorithm serves us another one just like it. This creates a loop. We call this the digital library, where the algorithms act like librarians. They are very good at organizing information, but they have a massive bias. They can only recommend what is already sitting on the shelves. For many decades, those shelves have been filled with stories about men's sports. For every one story about a female athlete, there were 19 stories about men. This surface-level imbalance means that even if you are not looking for it, you will constantly see one side of the story while the other side remains in the shadows. This leads us to a very deep hidden assumption that most of us carry without even knowing it. We often assume that the information we get from our search engines and social feeds is factually complete. We ask a simple question, like who has scored the most goals in international football, and we trust the answer we get. We expect to hear names like Ronaldo or Messi. When the technology gives us those names, we don't question it. But the hidden truth is that these answers are often factually wrong. There are women who have scored many more goals, but because their names are not mentioned as often in news articles, the algorithm overlooks them. We assume that popularity equals importance. We assume that if something was truly great, it would already be famous. This is a dangerous mistake. It creates a world where we ignore the achievements of half the population simply because the data we fed the machines was imperfect from the start. This assumption does not just hurt the athletes, it narrows our own understanding of what is possible. If we look at the structural pattern of this problem, we see what experts call the vicious cycle of underinvestment. It starts with visibility. Because women's sports are not seen as often, big television networks offer less money for the rights to broadcast them. Because there is less money, there is less production value. Because the production value is lower, the average fan might find it harder to get excited. This leads to a lack of sponsorship, which leads back to low visibility. It is a circle that traps everyone inside. This structure also has a devastating impact on the next generation. We see a pattern where young girls drop out of sports at twice the rate of boys by the age of 14. This happens because they cannot see a clear pathway for themselves. If they do not see women crushing it on the field and in life, they stop dreaming of becoming those women. This is a structural leak in the pipeline of future leadership. Since most women in top business positions grew up playing sports, when girls quit the game, we are losing future CEOs and world leaders. We need to reframe our perspective entirely. We need to stop seeing women's sports as a charity or a niche interest. Instead, we should see it as one of the biggest untapped economic opportunities in the world. The fans of women's sports are younger, they are more comfortable with new technology, and they are incredibly loyal to the brands that support their favorite players. When we reframe the narrative, we realize that the gatekeepers who ignore this audience are actually making a bad business move. We need to move from a model of bundled rights to a model of standalone investment. By unbundling women's sports from men's sports, we allow them to grow on their own terms. We are not just helping female athletes, we are opening up a massive new market that has been ignored for too long. We are reimagining the digital library by deliberately putting more books on the shelves. This means creating more content, more podcasts, and more social media stories that the algorithmic librarian can finally find and recommend to the world. Applying this to our daily lives is something every one of us can do starting today. You do not need to be a famous athlete or a billionaire to make a difference. The algorithm listens to your thumb. Every time you like a post about a female athlete, every time you share a video of a woman breaking a record, and every time you follow a new women's team, you are training the machine to see value where it was once blind. You are contributing to the library. We can also be more conscious consumers. We can choose to buy from brands that sponsor women's leagues. We can go beyond what the algorithm serves us on the front page and search for stories that intrigue us. We can even try our hand at being content creators ourselves. With the help of simple tools and even artificial intelligence, we can tell the stories that traditional media might be missing. We have the power to create our own media channels and connect with audiences directly. This is how we break the cycle and start a new one, a virtuous cycle of growth and visibility. It is important to remember that this is a collective effort. It takes brands, media rights holders, athletes, and fans working together to level the playing field. When we choose to look for what is hidden, we discover a world of grit, determination, and resilience that can inspire everyone, regardless of gender. We are building a future where our daughters do not have to search through the void to find a role model. We are creating a world where excellence is recognized wherever it happens. This is about more than just games and scores. It is about the lessons we learn from sports, like how to work as a team, how to handle failure, and how to find the strength to keep going. These are the lessons that build great leaders and healthy communities. By making these stories visible, we are giving those lessons to everyone. We are ensuring that the next generation of girls can see themselves as champions, and in doing so, they will become the leaders we need in every boardroom and every community. We have the technology to make this happen in an instant. All it takes is a deliberate choice to look past the historical data and build something new. We can turn the warning of "you cannot be what you cannot see" into a promise that we will make sure you see everything. Let us commit to filling the digital library with so many stories of triumph and skill that the librarian has no choice but to show them to the world. Let us celebrate the athletes who have worked so hard for their distinction and the fans who have been waiting for them. If you were to look at your own digital habits today and realize that your clicks are the votes that decide which stories get told, how would you change the way you interact with the world to ensure that the quietest voices of greatness finally get the spotlight they deserve?